care!
Welcome to The Know, I'm Ashley.
I'm Mica.
The Last Jedi opened this weekend to the tunes of bitcoins of dollars and rave reviews overall, but there are some in the Star Wars community who are less than thrilled about the direction of Rian Johnson's latest picture. Yeah, it's another entry in the epic saga of Star Wars fans are mad about something.
Man, that's been going on forever, hasn't it?
Well, since at least episode 1.
Now we've got petitions to remove The Last Jedi from the Star Wars canon completely.
Okay.
Wow. Yup, we got some bad user scores on Rotten Tomatoes and all kinds of fan
surprising.
anger on the Star Wars subreddit, which
That's a dark place.
nothing new. However, there's been a bit of misleading headlines about some of that stuff over the last couple of days, with some trying to claim that the movie isn't doing well with audiences.
Oh, no.
So, we thought we'd run through what all that means, calm some fears.
Yeah, now before we go any further, this isn't going to be a spoiler-filled episode of The Know, but we are going to be at least vaguely mentioning a couple of The Last Jedi's plot points because, well, that's how we can talk about what people are mad about, so we'll try not to spoil anything crazy, but there are a couple things in here we need to talk about.
So be warned, but first let's break down all the petitions on change.org.
So many petitions.
Because, yeah, there are a ton of them, ranging from the kind of ludicrous to the full-on holy shit ludicrous, and not like ludicrous. Just
They've gone plaid.
While they're all over the place in terms of what they're calling for, a lot of the critiques laid out are fairly similar. Some are unhappy over the film's tone, the treatment of Luke Skywalker, and the way it handled some of the setups from The Force Awakens.
And yeah, they can get a little bananas. For instance, one is calling for the return of franchise creator George Lucas to Star Wars. It says The Last Jedi was a disaster. Although it will be a commercial success, it is a total failure and a major disappointment in the minds of the fans.
Every fan.
All fans.
Every fan thinks this way. Another calls for the removal of all quote-unquote embarrassing jokes from Star Wars, although what could considered embarrassing is definitely in the eye of the beholder. The petition said that The Last Jedi was crowded with unacceptable, infantile, disappointing, and downright irritating jokes.
And then there are other petitions that want to erase or completely redo The Last Jedi. So if you haven't seen the movie, earmuffs for like 2 seconds, but one petition calls for a complete remake of the movie, saying, was it too much to ask for Luke to kick some ass with a green lightsaber? And then, well, from there it gets pretty spoilery, so we'll skip the rest, but you get the gist.
So people are wanting to overturn Hollywood decisions because of the lightsaber?
Yes.
Okay. Some others ask for the movie to be completely removed from the franchise's story canon entirely, although it remains to be seen how a change.org petition could accomplish this and, change a franchise.
Look, change.org petitions occasionally do actually get something done.
You know what? Fair.
Unlikely in this case, but sometimes they do. Others are specifically calling at Rian Johnson. They're calling for his removal from the Star Wars franchise, which is significant considering he has just been given a trilogy of his own. Another is just titled, Rian Johnson has to admit that The Last Jedi is awful.
Oh yeah, once that hits 50,000 signatures, he's legally inclined to do that. I'm pretty sure. And our favorite is the one that calls for Pornhub to be renamed Porghub every May the 4th. And you know what?
That's when I can support that.
Can we link
petition.
that so I can sign that? Because I'm down.
Okay, so if any of these change.org petitions go anywhere, it needs to be that one. Because
Porghub.
Come on, priority. And now, while all these petitions obviously aren't going to accomplish anything crazy, I don't think Rian Johnson is going to see a petition and go, you're right, this was whole pad. But they are an indicator that some fans were left with a bad taste in their mouths at the end of the movie. Is it a majority of fans? Probably not, but this is definitely the biggest backlash to a Star Wars movie we've seen since the prequels, and Rogue One was a departure from the formula.
It was.
Although now everyone hated that movie, and now that this one's out, it's like, Rogue One was pretty great. So,
don't you love the tipping of the scales?
Yeah, it happens.
And as for just how many fans there are out there hating on The Last Jedi, well, there are also some conflicting ideas about that. Several outlets started running headlines over the weekend that audience scores for the movie differed wildly from the critic scores, mostly by using Rotten Tomatoes as a metric for it.
But yeah, well, it makes a pretty good headline to say it has the worst audience score since Attack of the Clones. I mean,
God.
And that's also not an inaccurate score. At the moment on Rotten Tomatoes, The Last Jedi is at a 55% audience score compared to the 93% critic score, which is apparently one of the biggest disparities we've seen from the franchise, ever.
Yeah, and even when you're counting the gap between those scores, it's still lower than The Phantom Menace's audience score of 59%, which is damn impressive.
Actually, kind of impressive.
Yeah, but of course, just looking at that number isn't really telling the entire story for a variety of reasons.
Well, for one, the obvious points. It's pretty easy to leave user reviews online for something without actually seeing it or purchased it. This comes up a lot as well with like Metacritic scores or something like that, where you get the audience score and people just will leave a 0 because they don't think it's probably that great and doesn't deserve a high score. It happens.
That's not how that works.
Yeah, courts did some investigation and actually found a huge chunk of the Last Jedi reviews were left by brand new accounts that didn't do anything else, for instance.
Also, a little bit of evidence that the audience score out there is the result of a bit of bot manipulation.
Probably some of those new accounts.
Yeah, one Facebook group in particular is taking credit for trolling the Rotten Tomatoes user score page for The Last Jedi with bot accounts, and it seems to be celebrating every time a website writes about their methods. Bleeding Cool News also found what appeared to be misplaced bot reviews for The Last Jedi on the page for The Shape of Water, so...
Slightly different movies.
Maybe
I can see how you would get confused by the two, but they're a little different. So internet fans are getting upset and review bombing and DDoSing a website.
What?
That's crazy. That never happens. Oh wait, yeah, that happens all the time.
Constantly, this is the internet. Of course, none of that is conclusive evidence that bot manipulation is actually going on.
It's indicative, for sure.
But it's also totally possible these are all perfectly legit reviews written by real human beings that know how to fill out CAPTCHA forms.
But even if you set that aside, the movie's cinema score is still pretty high, which is definitely a reflection of what audiences think because of how that formula works. Seriously, it deals with actual people who have seen the movie and who are coming out of the movie and say, what did you think of the movie? And they go, I liked it, I didn't like it.
And not just someone who's sitting at home and pressing 0 because they can't.
Because it's probably not good.
Deadline has a good breakdown of some of this, but The Last Jedi cinema score is a very impressive A. The same score received by both The Force Awakens and Rogue One before it.
Is that like 59% or?
I think it's more like 55%.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whew. That score is derived by, well, some magical methods that the group's been putting into practice for the past 40 years, involving dozens of theaters across 25 different cities on the film's opening night. Deadline writes that the method's margin of error for 300 ballots is about 6%. So
solid.
It maybe could get down to an A-, but it's not rolling too far off that.
In general, it's regarded as a fairly accurate assessment of how audiences feel about the movie. However, even if you're still not buying that, generally the proof plays out in the one thing that always matters above all else, and that's how much cash is this movie raking in?
Well, there's some exceptions. In the money department, though, The Last Jedi, it's doing just fine. The movie's total haul now sits at a whopping $494 million at the worldwide box office, with $241 million of that coming domestically. And even after some of the hubbub of the weekend, the movie still posted huge Monday, one of the top 10 of all time, in fact, with an additional $21 million here in the US.
Yes, those audience scores don't really seem to be messing with the movie's bottom line at all.
Yeah, it is important to note that money isn't always the most accurate. I mean, the Suicide Squad made a lot of money without anyone actually liking that movie. Yeah. But when combined with all the other factors we mentioned, a theme does emerge.
So are there fans out there who have legitimate gripes about the movie? Of
course, absolutely,
there are.
Sure.
That's a thing. And is that the overwhelming majority of all the people who saw it? Yeah, at the moment, that doesn't seem to be the case based on the information we have available.
Yeah, so ultimately, we'll have to watch how audiences respond to the movie over time. We'll see what the drop-off is from opening weekend to their second weekend and see how much that carries over. This weekend's gonna help write out some of the rest of the story.
Yeah, so what do you guys think of the latest edition of Angry Star Wars Fans? We gotta start naming these like the movies.
Episode a billion.
1,000,000,007 probably, but let us know in the comments.
And for future updates, all things Star Wars, and also for our spoiler casts, remember to like this video. If you're new around here, subscribe to the Know.
Can we rename the Know the Porgs?
I think we can make that happen.
Yes!
Quick shameless plug, real fast here at the end. It's starting to get pretty tight on timing if you still got some gifts to shop for, so if you're running low on ideas, you should check out our gift guide.
We've got ideas for books, movies, housewares, games, apparel, art, music, tons of stuff.
Like Fallout vinyls, or illustrated Die Hard children's book, which is amazing, or Millennium Falcon blueprint coasters.
See? Tons of stuff.
Tons.
Tons. You can check it out at giftguide.roosterteeth.com.